Well, welcome, Jennifer. I'm so glad that you're able to join today's inVantage EOS Lightbulb series recording. I'm just so pleased to have you as one of our guest spots today. So thank you for joining me while you are traveling. So it's much appreciated. The purpose of this particular session is, as we talk about the benefits of EOS implementation and strengthening the 6 key components of business, we naturally identify opportunities within our clients where they have needs for extra experts, other individuals that can provide services inside their business that as an implementer, I may help identify, but I don't necessarily deliver. So today we're going to be talking with you about some of the components of what we call the people component, and I'll share a little bit here on my screen. So of the 6 key components in EOS, the people component, where we talk about having the right people in the right seats, and you gotta have both as the way we talk about it, we will at times identify needs for additional learning and development. And when we identify that, as an implementer, I love making great connections, and your organization is exciting. You're an entrepreneur yourself, so you understand the environment and the challenges our clients are going through as entrepreneurs and leadership teams of growing or changing businesses. And sometimes the teams might not be hitting on all cylinders. You know, it's not always, as we say here, utopia. We're working towards utopia, but we don't necessarily always start there. So what I'd love to do is spend a few minutes talking with you about your business and your organization and how you help clients. So without further ado, I'd love to have you share, Jennifer, a little bit about your business. Tell us about Jennifer at Consulting.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I love what you do, and I love that we have an opportunity to collaborate. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. Um, in regards to the services that I provide, where I'm really focusing my intent and my desire to really grow people is within the leadership development space. And what I've learned is that, mid-level leaders are very invested in where they are in their organization, but not given a tremendous amount of tools to really help develop their leadership style. And a lot of innovation in leadership development and leadership training, leadership process has really lagged over the course of the last several years. And what we need to do is innovate. And so what I am working towards doing is really focusing on that mid-level leader that wants to excel, that wants to develop their career, but oftentimes feels really undertrained, underdeveloped, underappreciated, and really kind of under pressure to deliver results they're not empowered to deliver because they've been put into a leadership position, but not given the tools to really lead. And so I focus a lot of what I consult on in the leadership development space on something I call composite leadership. And it's a methodology that I've developed to really create a more holistic leader in that mid-level space, because you're reporting up, you're reporting down, you're reporting sideways, and it's a sticky spot. So I want to help empower people to be significantly more successful in that world.
That middle management level, as we go through EOS implementations, one of the things we do is we help organizations really make sure they've got the right structure. And inevitably, that may move people around in the organization a little bit from where they've been to a new structure. And all too often, we will see that mid-level manager, maybe a higher potential individual, I like to call them acceleration pool, kind of in the position to be promoted or given new or additional responsibilities. But a lot of organizations, especially those that don't have the infrastructure for their own learning and development team, need that extra help and development. And you've probably seen more times than you can count. Mid-level managers good at their job, so they must be a good manager, and we don't give them those tools and that ability to really know how to lead, nor do we really acclimate them to the leadership team in a way that makes them effective right out of the gate. So what you do is really, really meaningful work. How did you arrive here as an entrepreneur yourself? Tell us a little bit about your own journey into Jennifer at Consulting.
Well, it's interesting, at least to me, my background. I too have been in the position that I now am coaching, and I kind of stop at the 25-year mark, so 25 plus years. We'll just leave it at that. In marketing and learning and development, I have been a trainer in the corporate world. I have built learning and development modules from the ground up, um, coached teams. I've watched really, really tremendous leaders, and I've watched really, really terrible leaders, and learned from both. And so there's a really lovely experience through going through sort of the certification processes in learning and development, and learning more about adult learning, and how to really motivate adults who want to be successful. But there's also really no substitute for experience, and I've been blessed with both. And so my journey has been through the corporate world. I've worked on my own. I've worked in nonprofit. In the corporate world, in the agency world, I've managed large teams, small teams, had large peer groups, small peer groups, and sort of a really lovely, menagerie of experiences, which has been the really just the whole piece has led me to this.
Mhm.
And I recently, as a result of, all things associated with COVID and quarantine, and some leaders making some really tough decisions across the board based on the economy, have been afforded the opportunity to have my most recent corporate role was eliminated. And I really thought long and hard about what do I want to do, and how do I really want to make a difference. And I have the opportunity now with this business, and my clients have already seen this, to really take everything that I've learned to this point and apply it in a way that gets me excited every day to get up in the morning, gets me excited every day to motivate people, to pull them up, to empower them, and to give them the right tools to be successful. And I really love the aspect of EOS from the perspective of that, the right people in the right seats. Because so often, to your point, we have people who are tremendously successful in a particular role, and we say, well, let's promote them. Let's advance their career as a reward for being so successful. And then we give them direct reports, or we give them a leadership role, and we don't tell them how to lead versus how to do the job they're so good at. And so I've created the tools to be able to empower them to learn how to apply everything that they know in a way that can help lead others to success, because that's a big gap that we don't identify oftentimes.
I love what you said about that there's no substitute for experience. And in what you do, being able to have had the exposure to different scenarios and situations and environments, employers, bosses, good and bad, we learn a lot, like you said, from both. I think that's fantastic. You bring that to the table. Can you give me maybe an example or two of the types of problems you might help a client solve when it comes to developing their manager? Like, what are a couple scenarios you've seen or experienced that you've been able to
Yes.
help address?
Yes, so it's really interesting. One thing that becomes very apparent in that mid-level leader is oftentimes they have been promoted within a peer group, or this is the first opportunity that they've had to really address conflict or difficult conversations. Either having a direct report who is not delivering on expectations, having a peer group that now is in leadership and has a certain level of expectation, or really just having a comfort level and addressing issues that can get a little sticky, can get a little difficult. And so one of the aspects of the development program that I've created really addresses how to manage conflict, but also those difficult conversations. And it can be anything from, managing a direct report's productivity, to something as simple as, I'm really irritated that, my coworker keeps hanging her coat on my hook. That something as simple as that, which clearly is not the case as we're all working remote, but from simple to complex. And so empowering folks to be able to manage those conversations. Another area that I focus on, and there are many, but accountability. Accountability is a very important piece of leadership, as you know, not just to hold ourselves accountable, but to hold others accountable as well. And that can also involve managing up, down, and sideways. And those are two pieces that I kind of build on in the development process and in my program in order to help those in these leadership positions understand that accountability for yourself is incredibly important. It also teaches others accountability by leading by example, but you also then empower others to be accountable in ways to deliver upon the vision and the strategic goal of the organization. So as you talk about strategy and vision in the EOS process, making sure that we are coaching those mid-level leaders to understand how to facilitate a strategic vision, how to lead others towards that strategic vision is a really lovely synergy.
It's interesting when we look at the implementation of EOS, the whole theme of accountability is at the root of everything we do. And that's really how we say we get traction is through accountability. And one of the learning curves that leadership teams have when they implement EOS is essentially the set of tools and processes really make the way the business operates very transparent. You can't hide behind facts, figures, information, and data. And really part of EOS is bringing all of that to light and teaching people how to operate maybe in a culture that has not always been highly accountable, or perhaps you could hide a little bit behind because things were not always true to light, is one of the exposing factors. And that's one of the first places we hit is the organizational structure and accountability. And we tend to expose that with clients very early in the process. But the good news, to your point, it can be taught if understood what the approach is and how to navigate that. So that really resonates with me. What are a couple of the symptoms inside your clients that they might want to watch out for that might indicate they could utilize your services? What are some of the things that might be happening that they don't necessarily know? Oh, I need learning and development, but underneath it, that's what they really need.
So it's such a great question. And first and foremost, I'll say it's very timely right now. One of the things that we're looking at is organizations have had to make some very difficult decisions, right? They've had to eliminate staff, they've had to cut budgets, they've had to make some really difficult decisions to remain healthy and solvent in the economic situation that we have right now for multiple reasons. One of the things that I think employers need to be thinking about is engagement. And most employers don't see learning and development as a way to engage your employees, but it truly, truly is, because what it shows is that you're willing to invest in them. It can be very impactful to really raise the level of morale, the level of engagement, and the level of commitment for the employees who remain with your organization to drive towards those strategic goals, that vision, and to work through challenging situations within the organization. So I always see that as a great opportunity, but is truly, truly valuable right now. One of the symptoms that you may see within your organization is, especially with that mid-level leader, is a sense of sort of feeling lost or disconnected. You may see that your mid-level leaders are kind of plugging along. They are doing a lot of the tactical work with their direct reports, but they're not necessarily subscribed to or well-versed in what the overarching strategy is for the department or the organization. They may feel very invested in what I call the builder role, because that's what they came from. And we want to teach them and empower them to be more of an architect. Mm-hmm. So what you may be seeing is kind of that, not really sure how to lead, so I'm going to adopt the leadership style of my manager, or I'm just going to try to blindly make sure that I'm checking the box and managing versus leading. Management is simply accomplishing tasks, right? It's making sure that the projects are getting done on time, they're getting done appropriately, and nothing falls through the cracks, which is great, and we need those people. When you're really looking to empower people for succession planning within the organization, they need to be leadership. They need to have leadership skills. And so you'll want to identify those people who are simply coming in and checking the box every day, not necessarily going above and beyond, not because they don't want to, because they don't know what the above and beyond looks like. And you'll also see a symptom of folks who are potentially asking for help or asking for support, but not necessarily knowing what to ask for because they are looking for ways to improve and advance, but they don't know how to do that and they don't know how to ask for the right guidance. Oftentimes, you'll see that if you ask a mid level leader, would you like more support in learning how to lead? Unequivocally, the answer is yes. Most leaders don't ask. Most people don't ask because they figure if somebody needs something, they'll ask for it. And if they do a training module online every year and check off the box for, oh, I did my required training, they feel as though they've been given enough. And oftentimes they haven't. So those are a few different ways to kind of try to identify that there's a need. Ultimately, what you'll see is turnover in that mid-level manager spot can be a really strong indicator that you need to provide additional learning and development because you want to show that you're invested in your employees. And by the time somebody decides to leave, it's often too late. So engagement is really the key. Really making sure that you're asking your employees on a regular basis, do you have what you need? And do you feel empowered to do the job that you have?
The good news is as we're working through this incredible COVID environment, organizations that had really hit the brakes on spend and investment in the learning and development area are starting to open that back up because they're recognizing, look, top talent is always going to be in demand. I don't care what the economy is. The best people are always in demand. And
Exactly.
employees need that engagement, that connection right now. And learning and development is one of the best ways to deliver that. And it can be done remote. We've learned a lot about engagement over Zoom like we are today. And so I think it's such an opportune time for you to really be able to make some impacts in those businesses. So thank you for sharing so much about your journey, your organization. I'm so excited to have you as a referral partner in my network for my EOS clients. And here is cheers to making stronger management teams and better outcomes. But before we part, is there anything else that you were hoping to be able to add before we wrap up today?
Coaching your leaders to become better and to cultivate and develop the skills and competencies to be truly, truly effective is going to positively impact their engagement, the bottom line, because they are significantly more productive, the ability to attract better talent, and overall success in achieving strategic goals and initiatives for the organization. It starts there. And unless you focus on that, you are robbing your organization of the opportunity to be more productive and more successful.
Could not agree more. Those are some amazing nuggets. And hopefully as people are thinking about how they assess and look at their organization, they're really looking at the right things. So thank you. Again, thank you for being our guest today. I look forward to being able to see you in person at some time soon.